boy. Alrighty, I just set up the heater. It's freezing cold in Melbourne. Freezing cold. Now, I've shot this video two separate times on two separate days, trying to be as authentic as possible. And the more and more reshoots I did of the video, the more and more like performative I sounded. So I figured today, which is actually my birthday, I'm officially in my late 20s now, which is wild. But I figured that I would just do a one take, one try video. These kind of videos tend to do well, apparently. So I thought I would just have a discussion about what has been my reality of being a travel vlogger on YouTube for what is now 2 years and 9 months when I first started YouTube. So sit down, relax, have a drink, grab some popcorn, and I'm just going to chat to the camera. I've also realized that I don't look in the camera lens that often when I'm travel vlogging. It's not something I do on a regular basis. It feels very strange doing direct-to-camera footage, but I'll give you a brief update on where I currently am. So I'm in Melbourne, and if you've been up to date with the channel, you may know that my camera broke when I was visiting good old Timor-Leste. And I had planned that trip like 2 months prior, invested so much money, planned 10 or 12 videos, and I was then supposed to go to Indonesia briefly, Europe briefly, and then the United States for about 6 weeks. So the camera breaking on day 2, I had to escape to Jakarta to try and fix it. Jakarta said it was going to take like a month. I didn't have a month. And then my plans in America fell through. So I ended up retreating back to Australia, which all in all cost about $2,500 to $3,000, and I only got one video out of it instead of the 10 to 12 that I thought I would. So it's been a huge financial loss and a big setback on my channel right now. So that's the situation. The camera's still not fixed. It's in the camera shop, and they said it'll take another week and a half. So hopefully I can get back on the road in July. But yeah, that's the situation. I'm just recuperating my losses big time here in Melbourne and trying to make the best of a bad situation. It's been a bad run over the past month. So anyway, the topic for the video is, what is it like being a travel vlogger? I guess I'll give you just my own personal experience, and it may not necessarily reflect that of other YouTubers per se. This is just my experience. So I'll run through the finances, my own personal difficulties, favorite countries that I've been to, my own process on YouTube and how like my work ethic is, as well as, monetization and stuff like that. So I'll start off with, I started YouTube on the 14th of September 2022. At the time I was living in New York, and I decided, okay, I'm going to pull out the camera and just start filming stuff. I was already quite a big traveler before I started doing YouTube. So I've had the travel bug for many years, basically since I was a kid. My family did a lot of traveling when I was younger, so I've always had that bug. And yeah, anyway, today's been nice for my birthday, by the way. It's been a really great morning, got breakfast in bed and all that stuff. I very rarely have the opportunity to come home to Australia. And that's one thing a lot of travel vloggers face, is that when you're on the road and you don't have a lot of money with you and you're traveling all around the world for many months at a time, sometimes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever it be, you don't have access to your friends. You don't have access to your family. It's very difficult to maintain a romantic relationship when you live in such an unstable environment. And I would say that is probably the number one barrier of entry for most people when they start to learn how to travel vloggers actually live. So I'm like, okay, it could become easier as time goes on. When you start making more money from YouTube, you start building up more of an audience, things can become more stable. But even still, with my journey so far, it's still been very unstable. So that goes into my next point, that travel vlogging looks glamorous from the outside. So many people say things like, what you're doing is awesome. You get so many great experiences. You don't have the normal monotony of everyday life that most people have got. You get to travel the world. You get to go to cool bars and beaches and things like that. And that's true, but again, they don't get to see all the bits and pieces in between. Now, in particular, one of the biggest things is running into financial difficulties. So a lot of people, particularly in the comments on some of my videos, you fuckers, think that mummy and daddy pay for my trips, or that I come from generational wealth or something like that, which could not be further from the truth. I do pay for and fully fund these trips by myself, and the money does not mainly come from YouTube. It's from an outside source. So to put it into perspective for my whole channel, I work an online job where I'm a contractor and I do live Zoom calls with clients. And that work is based in North America, and it's on North American time. So that means that if I'm in Asia or Australia or Europe, whatever, it means that my work is generally in the middle of the night. It could be at 5 a.m., could be at 4 a.m., could be 3 a.m., midnight. Sometimes it's only for an hour, sometimes it's for 6 hours. It changes week by week. And this has been an absolute lifeline for me. If it wasn't for this kind of work, I would not have been able to travel for such extended periods of time, like literally living paycheck to paycheck. However, it's also been a huge pain in the ass to some degree, because when you're living like that, it means you're essentially pulling off night shifts and then trying to work on your career job during the day that doesn't pay so well. So most nights of the week, I'm not getting enough sleep, and then I end up sleeping in until like 2 p.m. if my shift ends at 6 a.m. And I've lost a lot of daylight hours to film, which means I need to try and make up for filming in the afternoon. But then you also need to edit the videos and and release the videos, etc. Go through all the clips, check all the footage, see if there's something you need to reshoot. So while trying to juggle a job as well as YouTube and constantly being on the road where you need to have energy, you need to spend money and all that stuff, it's a very difficult task. It's not easy. And it depends where you are. Like, I found India very difficult, for example. I found Sri Lanka a little bit easier. So I've been considering whether or not I should continue with this job, because it is great. I enjoy the work. It's very, very fun. But it's also very inconsistent. So 1 week I could make, let's say, $1,000 US, which is a pretty good week for anybody. But then the following 2 weeks, I might make like $150 each week, which is very clearly not enough money to live on, even if you're in Asia. So when those times happen, and I've got barely any money with me, I essentially have to hunker down in one place for a couple of weeks to wait for 2 payment cycles to come through from work, so that I can afford to move on to the next destination or afford to move on to the next country. And to give you some specific examples, I was in Varanasi for 2 weeks before I could afford a flight to go to America to have a bit of a break and hang out with some mates. Dude, it's nearly 3 a.m. in my room here in Varanasi, and there's been a power cut for the last 4 hours. Literally nothing is turning on. It is like a fucking sauna in here, and I cannot sleep at all. Before I could make my way to Varanasi, I had to stay in Pokhara, Nepal for 10 days. And no one stays in Pokhara for 10 days. Nobody. Like, nobody does unless you live there. Same with Varanasi. They're not cities you spend super extended periods of time in. But I had to do it because of my financial situation. And sometimes if you're really running low on money, sometimes you don't have the ability to film the kind of videos you want to film, because sometimes it requires spending money to make the videos you want to make. So it has been difficult, and it's impacted my ability to upload videos on a very regular basis. I find myself getting quite delayed. So for example, I shot heaps in India, heaps in Nepal, heaps in Sri Lanka, and most of those videos I uploaded when I was already outside the country in a different spot. And this year in 2025, I want to change that. I want to be more on top of the work and get out these videos faster, because when people are watching you on your journey in real time, there's a sense of excitement there. You want people to follow you on that journey, and it is really, really fun when you have people actively engaged. It feels a bit weird when you've got like a 2 or 3 month distance and you're in like Thailand releasing the videos, but everyone thinks you're in Sri Lanka. It's a weird thing. But okay, let's talk about some of my favorite countries that I've been to. I will say number 1 is Sri Lanka. I was so surprised with Sri Lanka. The Like most places you go, the people are pretty damn friendly, but Sri Lankans are extra friendly. They are so appreciative of foreigners visiting the country because they help the economy. It's so easy to get around. I love the modern history, the colonial history. It was one of those countries where I had very few bad experiences in. And I hopefully will return sometime soon. I absolutely love Sri Lanka. Then the number 2 would be Myanmar. Now, obviously, Myanmar's in a pretty bad situation at the moment, literally being under a military dictatorship. But that trip was so unbelievably unique because I've never been to a country like that before. It's like a country that hasn't become globalized. It's a country where the internet is heavily restricted, travel's heavily restricted. You can only travel in zones where the military controls, but the military are the bad guys. So you get to see how people live in that environment, and seeing the absolute friendliness from the locals there and seeing how they live in their own ways of combating against the military, as well as seeing real, genuine struggle. It's given me a newfound respect for Western constitutions and Western institutions because those things were built to prevent situations like Myanmar from occurring. It's like it's so easy to take our lives for granted when I've seen with my own eyeballs loads of people in Myanmar who live under insane amounts of oppression from their government. So that was a big eye-opening trip. And then number 3, I didn't film it, but I really liked Hungary. I'm a big fan of Orban. Budapest is just so fun, so safe. The accommodation is cheap. You get blasted with locals at the pub. I was only there for 4 nights, but I had a really, really good time, and I definitely want to go back to good old Hungary. So those would be my top 3. Now, my scariest travel experiences. Okay. Full disclosure, I'm a very nervous flyer. I don't know how the fuck I am a travel vlogger where it requires me to fly on a regular basis and be a nervous flyer, but that's just how it is. The flight that I took from Delhi to Kathmandu was the scariest fucking flight I've ever been on. The plane was under turbulence the entire flight, pretty much. Particularly the second we got over Nepalese airspace, the plane was jumping up and down the whole time. So it was a super cloudy day. You couldn't see outside the window in terms of looking at mountains or the land. You couldn't see anything except for very brief moments. And when we would hit major turbulence, the plane would jump up above the clouds, the cabin would get flooded with light, and then it would do immediate jump back down into the clouds. The cabin would be super dark, jump back up again, the light comes in, back down, goes super dark. And by the time we landed on the ground, the entire row was just flooded with vomit. I had never seen anything like it before. I'm not much of a vomiter, but I was very nervous. I literally had an Indian couple like holding my hand as I was shivering the whole time. But it was literally lined with vomit. Like multiple people threw up on that flight, and no bloody wonder. So that was pretty scary. Then I would say Myanmar in general was a scary experience. Now, don't get the wrong idea that Myanmar is an unsafe place when you're visiting, because when you go to Yangon and Old Bagan, they're 2 very safe areas. I didn't actually feel unsafe at all. What made it unsafe was the fact that I was filming. So even though I'm not a journalist, I've never considered myself a journalist, it doesn't make any difference to the military when they see a dude walking around with a camera. Journalists have been killed in Myanmar before, so I had to be very careful anytime that I noticed military on a corner when I was on my scooter or walking around Yangon. I had to hide my camera, shove it up my shirt, take off the camera and put it in my pocket, just to make sure I didn't get in trouble, because you never know when they get the wrong idea and they might detain you and interrogate you, and maybe they didn't like something you said in a video if they check the footage. So, it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, but in general, just because of the fact I was filming. And then the third one would actually be Marrakesh in Morocco. So it's like I really liked Morocco. I went there at the end of 2023. It was a good experience. I find Moroccans very friendly. But one of my videos I filmed was in Jamafna Square, the main Medina area in Marrakesh. And that was a really fun video. People were very outgoing and friendly, talking to the camera, very few scams and whatnot. But I went to that same square the night before without my camera, just to look around and see what was what. And I found that the people were much more aggressive, much more pushy, and it was almost like when I had the camera out, they put a mask on. It was like they knew that if they did something wrong, there could potentially be consequences for their actions. So me not having the camera and seeing that shift that they made was very, very concerning to me. And then that same night that I didn't have the camera, my riad, the hotel that I was staying at, was very deep in the Medina. So I was walking down at nighttime by myself. And at one point I had to take like a sharp right turn to open the door to get into my hotel. And there was a group of about 5 guys right behind where that right turn was. And they were calling over to me as I was walking towards them saying, "Come on, brother, come here, brother, give us your money, brother." And I just had this very bad feeling that they were going to jump me or something. So I somehow slipped by, put the key in first try, and got into the hotel. Usually I get that key wrong. Like I get it wrong a couple of times, or I put the wrong key in. It was so lucky I just slid it in and got it. Now, I don't necessarily think those 5 guys would have jumped me per se, but it is not out of the ordinary for people to be jumped in the Marrakesh Medina, even for guys. There's been a lot of scams in there, a lot of crime in that area for sure. But aside from those 3, I wouldn't say I've been in too many scary travel experiences. Like I haven't gone to any like insanely dangerous countries, but those would be my top 3 probably. And then, countries with the sexiest women. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, and it's probably going to be controversial. Now, I'm going to say number 1. You may not like this, but this is my truth. I'm going to say the United States. I lived in America for 3 years. I love Americans. I think Americans get way more hate on the international stage than they actually deserve. Very friendly, welcoming people, almost like too naive kind of thing. I love Americans, and in America you can find every chick of every nationality and every ethnicity you could possibly imagine. You just, there's no limit on your choices, So America, number 1. America, number 1. Then number 2, Italy. Very hard to refute. Italian chicks, great. Then Serbia. Serbia really surprised me. I found Serbian chicks very hot. Some Balkan girls, like even Bulgarian girls as well, pretty damn cute. Number 4 would be Myanmar. I don't know what it is for me personally. I don't find, no offense, I love Thailand, but I don't find like Thai chicks that hot for some reason. But Myanmar, bro, Myanmar chicks, great. Also as well, if you want a girlfriend kind of thing, and you go to Myanmar, there are so many guys that are addicted to betel nut. So their mouths are all, fucked up and red and droopy and shit like that, that if you're a chick, you wouldn't want to kiss that. So the competition is already dropped massively. So like you've got free reign. So I'm just saying, if you're really desperate or something, go to Myanmar, you might find your wife there. I don't know, I'm just saying. And then 5 would be Nepalese girls. Nepalese girls are pretty hot. So yeah, those are my top 5 for now. It may change, you never know. Then what else? What else? I guess that's mainly the brunt of it. YouTube, like YouTube revenue earnings. So I got monetized on the 13th of June 2024. Well, that's when I became eligible for the monetization. It took about 6 weeks to get, like, basically on the back end for YouTube. You have to you got to prove your address, and you got to prove your identity and where you pay taxes and stuff like that, and that takes about 6 weeks. So it was like August of last year was when I got monetized. And generally for ad revenue, I've only made about between $100 and $200 a month. And obviously that's not much to live on at all. I've had a bit more than that occasionally, but it is very volatile. It does change month by month. And I've found that my ad revenue earnings have been relatively low. And that's because a number of my videos have been more like, say, like videos in India, especially the shorts. Those are the ones that have blown up for me, have been very Indian audience focused. And in terms of ad revenue, Indian viewership doesn't pay as much as like American viewership does, for example. So And that's just because Americans are more likely to buy things that they see on the ads. Like advertisers pay more money pretty much. That's the reason why. So like Aussies and Brits and stuff pay more than Sri Lankans and Nepalese people, etc. when it comes to ad revenue. So I'll give you an example. I had a video, a short that got 23 million views, Toyota Hilux combat stick. Got no idea how this video blew up to that many views. It was such a random thing that happened. The guy ended up messaging me on Instagram saying what's up, which is really funny. But that video, fully monetized from start to finish, only made me like 400 Aussie dollars. And I was very shocked that it only made me 400 bucks. Like I know YouTube are very generous actually with the ad revenue share. I think they give 55% to the creators. So it's, still shocked, but I learned that if it was an American audience that watched that video, it would be more like $2,000 or something. So I guess that leads perfectly into what I want to change with the channel moving forward. And like, I have to be super duper honest here. I love making YouTube videos. I love traveling, but really recently I found it very difficult to edit my videos. And that's because for many of them, I haven't had the motivation to edit them because I don't care about a lot of the content. Like particularly from Nepal, like I barely uploaded any footage from Nepal because in Nepal, they were just very generic videos. Like the world doesn't need another things to do in Kathmandu vlog or a things to do in Pokhara vlog or seeing some local restaurant or whatever. Like if I don't have a personal interest in it, if I don't find it meaningful, then chances are you aren't going to find it meaningful either. And another thing I've got to be real about is that since COVID, the raw travel vlogging niche has become super duper saturated with people. And that's great in the sense of people have been able to get online work and travel in a way that they were never able to do, pre-COVID. And that's cool in general, but it has opened the floodgates for a lot more people. So my channel is identical to thousands of other YouTube channels. Relatively generic videos. Some videos are quite unique, but it's just sort of going to this place, having this experience there, blah, 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 blah. But there's no unique, specific identity to the channel. And that has been a major play up on my mind recently because I feel as though my videos don't actually speak to my interests and what I consider meaningful and valuable. And part of the reason I haven't jumped into that is because some of those views may be conservative, some of those views may be controversial, and in the modern day that we're living in, platforms and governments punish you for expressing certain opinions or covering certain topics. And it can be a very scary thing, but I feel like I can't continue doing YouTube unless I make videos on the things I actually care about. So like certain interests, for example, I have vested interests in certain countries like Timor-Leste and its story, so I'm very upset that the trip fell apart. I'm interested in misunderstood aspects of colonial history, Western collapse, even a little bit of politics, individual unique stories anywhere around the world that I'm aware of and want to make a video on. That's the stuff I want to do, more purposeful shooting rather than it just sort of being random. Now, I don't mind some of the randomness to a degree if it's a place I really enjoy being in, like Sri Lanka, for example. So pretty much from this point forward, I'm going to be focusing more on the content I actually care about, because if I don't find it meaningful, you're probably not going to find it meaningful and not valuable in the way that I want it to be valuable. So yeah, it's been a bit of a snag for me recently. It's been a big point of reflection. But I think, even if it is more dangerous to be more authentic and to cover topics that are a little bit more controversial, then at the very least, even if you're under attack, it may be more meaningful to the audience and definitely meaningful to me. So that's sort of the way I picture it. That's my situation right now. Hopefully I get back on the road some point in July. Again, I've never uploaded a video to my channel before that's completely raw with zero cuts. I think that that's just the best way to do it for the moment. This is exactly how I am right now. And anyway, I'll see you back on the road in July. I'll upload some shorts and stuff in the meantime. If you haven't subbed to the channel, please click that subscribe button. Apparently asking actually helps boost it rather than not asking. Also hit the like button. The like button actually pushes the video out to more people. And if you want to share it, share it. If you don't want to share it, don't share it. So anyway, thanks for watching and hearing me rant out loud, and I will catch you in the next one.